Hi there, Year 8. This is Mr. Connolly, and this is lesson 2 of the stuff we're doing on fractions, and it's going to be today on calculations with fractions. That's multiplying, dividing, adding and subtracting. For today's lesson, there's going to be a few worksheets that are in the same folder as the videos. So if you go in the Year 8 Term 6 and look at the pre-recorded lessons, they should be in there. If you can't find them, then just ask your teacher and they'll be able to direct you to them. Okay, so we're going to start now with finding a fraction of an amount. Okay, Year 8, the first thing we're going to do is to find a fraction of an amount. So the first thing we're going to do is find 3/4 of 20. Okay, so to find 3/4 of 20, first of all, I'm going to find 1/4 of 20. To find that, I divide by 4. Okay, so 20 divided by 4 is 5. Then 3/4 will be 3 times 5, which will be 15. So the answer, 3/4 of 20 is 15. Question 2, calculate 9/10 of 50. So 1/10 of 50, first of all, is 50 divided by 10, which is 5. Then I need to multiply by the numerator. So I'm multiplying here by 9. 5 times 9 will give me 45. Question 3, calculate 2/3 of 60. So first of all, I need to find 1/3 of 60. 60 divided by 3 is 20. And then I'm going to multiply that by 2. So 20 times 2 will give me 40. To find a fraction of an amount, divide by the denominator and then multiply by the numerator. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is multiplying fractions. Now multiplying fractions is very easy. Okay, to multiply a fraction, we multiply the numerators together and the denominators together. Okay, so the number one mistake people make when multiplying fractions is they think it's like adding fractions, which we'll come to later, which is slightly more complicated. Okay, but to multiply fractions, you just need to remember to multiply the numerators together and the denominators. Okay, so I've got 3 questions here as examples. 3 times 3 will give you 9. 4 times 5 will give you 20. Okay, if you're able to cancel it, then do so, that's fine. Okay, particularly if a question says give your answer in its simplest form, then you must cancel at the end. Okay, 9/20 there, I'm not going to cancel though. Question 2, calculate 2/3 times 3/4. So my numerators is 2 times 3 and my denominators is 3 times 4. So 2 times 3 is 6, 3 times 4 is 12. So 6/12. There, I can cancel that. Okay, if you look at it, the number 6 goes into the numerator and into the denominator. It goes into the numerator once and the denominator twice. Okay, so that cancels down to 1/2. All right, slightly trickier now in question 3. If you want to have a go at that, you can pause the video. But I'm going to go through it now. Okay, so in order to multiply these, okay, I'm going to turn it into a top-heavy fraction. Now, if you think back to the last lesson, okay, 3 2/3, multiply the whole number by the denominator, then add the numerator. So 3 times 3 is 9, add 2 is 11/3, because there are 3/3 in each of those holes. 3 times 3 is 9/3 in 3 holes, plus 2 gives you 11/3. So with my numerators, I have 11 times 2, which is 22, and 3 times 5, which is 15. Okay, again, I have a top-heavy fraction here, 22/15. So I'm going to see how many 15s go into 22, and that is 1 remainder 7. So it's 1 7/15, and that's my final answer. Okay, so that's multiplying fractions. Dividing fractions is very similar, slightly different. To divide fractions, we flip the second fraction and then multiply. Okay. Now, you can look at this in a bit more detail to understand why this works, okay, but for this recording today, I'm just going to go through with this. To divide fractions, we flip the second fraction and then multiply. Okay, so 1/3 divided by 3/4 becomes 1/3 times 4/3, okay? And then once it's a multiplication, we do exactly the same thing as we did with the multiplication. So that's 1 times 4 is 4, and 3 times 3 is 9. So that becomes 4/9. Next question, 5/7 divided by 10/15. Okay, here when I multiply, the reciprocal of 10/15 is 15/10. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom. 5 times 15 is 75. 7 times 10 is 70. So that's 75 over 70, which is cancels down to 15 over 14, or you may write that as 1 and 5/70, which cancels down to 1 and 1/14. Now, there are those of you who are watching this who might think, well, I can cancel before I multiply, and I would recommend doing that so that the multiplication is simpler. So you could cancel down the 5/10 in the question. Okay, the 5, the numerator, the first fraction, the 10, the denominator, the second fraction, to a half, and then straight away your multiplication would give you an answer of 15/14. Okay, but we're going to just do straight multiplication for the moment to keep it simple. Okay, and then we've got a mixed number now. Okay, so 2 and 1/5 divided by 2/3. So 2 and 1/5 as a top heavy fraction becomes 11/5. And then the reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2. So it becomes 11/5 times 3/2, which is 33 over 10, which is 3 and 3/10. Okay, so that is dividing fractions. Okay, and again, there are some dominoes to do if you want to print those out and have a go at. And you can find those in the recorded lessons folder in the Year 8 Term 6 area. Okay, next up, we're going to do adding and subtracting. Now, adding and subtraction is the most complicated because we can only add and subtract fractions if they have a common denominator. So to add or subtract fractions, we must first find a common denominator for them and then add or subtract the new numerators. Okay, you could think of it like algebra, where we can only add things which are like terms. So we can only add a's together or b's together, or a squareds and b squareds together. We cannot add things that are different. All right, so let's have a look at this. So I'm going to do 3/4 take away 2/3. Now they have different denominators, 4 and 3. So I need to think of a number that 4 and 3 both go into. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make equivalent fractions, okay? And you've got to find equivalent fractions that both go into. Now in the last lesson, we did do this where we were able to compare fractions by making them have the same denominator. So 4 and 3 both go into 12, okay? So if I multiply the first fraction by 3, okay, I'm going to get 4 times 3 is 12. And if I multiply the numerator, I'm going to get 3 times 3 is 9. And then the second fraction on the right, I need to times by 4. 3 times 4 is 12. So I need to do 2 times 4 to give me 8. Okay? So 3 times 3 gives me 9. 4 times 2 gives me 8. 9 12s take away 8 12s is 1 12. Again here, 5 and 7 have different denominators. The lowest common multiple of 5 and 7, okay, the smallest number they both go into is 35. So I need to then make the numerators the same. So I'm going to multiply the first fraction by 7. So 2 times 7 is 14. And the second fraction I'm going to multiply by 5. So 14 35ths add 20 35ths is 34 35ths. Okay. Finally, there's a worksheet on this in the pre-recorded lesson area as well. So you can find those 3 things to do. I mean, you can have a go at all 3, or you might just want to try the code breaker and this worksheet here and not faff around with the dominoes. It's up to you, okay? But they'll be there for you to find, okay? It's a little bit shorter this time, but there's a bit more of your own work to do today. If you want to send a copy of what you've done to your teacher, and they'll be able to look at it with you. Okay, thanks Year 8, and I'm looking forward to lesson 3. See you soon, bye.